Okay, great. So thank you guys so much. We have a lot of people who are trickling into this webinar. I'm super, super excited for this event. This is a great event for students and new and early career veterinarians. We are so glad you're here. We have a really amazing panel. Before I introduce our wonderful panelists, I am going to tell you a little bit about our program and how you guys came to be here today. This event is brought to you by ReadyVet Go, which is a mentorship program for new and early career veterinarians, and CityVet, which is an amazing group of practices located all over the country. I'll tell you a little bit about both of them, and then we'll get this amazing panel going. So the ReadyVet Go mentorship program is a 7-month remote program. It's for new and early career veterinarians. Basically, when veterinarians graduate from vet school and are brought on into a clinic, that clinic will enroll them in our program, really to help complement the support that you as new and early career vets are hopefully receiving on the ground in the clinic. You learn alongside other new grads. You work with really highly experienced mentors. We have both a self-paced online learning platform that you progress through on your own time, as well as 20 hours of live support. We have interactive workshops. We have small group pack meetings. We're really focused on community and joy and love for the veterinary profession. This is something that is really near and dear to my heart. I was just telling one of our panelists here that I just registered for my 20-year vet school reunion. So I've been doing this for a really long time, and I still love veterinary medicine. I love it every single day. We are so lucky to be in this profession, and it is my real dream to help new veterinarians graduate into the profession and love it, hopefully as much as I do. Our program is RACE approved for 12 units of continuing education CE, which is great as well. I'm having a little bit of a glitch. We are currently enrolling for our October cohort. We start cohorts in the ReadyVet Go community usually quarterly. So we are enrolling now for our October cohort. So if you are a new or early career vet, you've graduated within the last few years and you want some extra support, or you're joining us here today because you are a practice owner or practice manager and have a new grad that you want to enroll in our program, you can scan the QR here. I'm going to drop some links into the chat with some discount codes in a little bit as well. This event is brought to you by the ReadyVet Go community, which is a kind of a parallel program to the mentorship program, but this community is open to everyone. And that's how you all came to be here today, because this is one of our many events. We have 2 events every month that is free for the veterinary community at large. This is vet students, new grads, RVTs, practice owners. So the QR code is there, and I'll actually drop the link to enroll in the community in a minute. You'll get kind of sneak peek access to all of our events. We also, if you guys notice when you log on to the webinar, that it's being recorded. All of our live events are recorded and they live in the ReadyVet Go community. And you can have access to all of those continuing education events for free. We don't have CE for this one, so you can ignore that. This will be available on demand within 2 weeks in the ReadyVet Go community. You only have access to that if you're a community member. So make sure you scan the QR and get into the community. This is a live event where our panelists are going to be taking questions from each other and from you guys. So please feel free to drop your questions into the chat as we go, or you can utilize the Q&A. I just want to give a shout out to CityVet. They're our sponsor for this event as well. CityVet is a really unique group of veterinary clinics. First of all, they guarantee enrollment in the ReadyVet Go mentorship program for every new grad that they bring on, which is really amazing. So we work side by side with CityVet practices as one of our partners. It was founded 25 years ago by Dr. Chip Cannon in Dallas, and he really envisioned a kinder pet care experience. And so we have a lot of synergy between ReadyVet Go and CityVet with the way we approach veterinary medicine from a place of kindness and joy. CityVet has grown to over 35 clinics throughout the country. We have some CityVet representatives on our panel today. So just a thank you to CityVet for helping sponsor this event. So we are going to, without further ado, get going on our panel. I'm going to introduce our panelists. Thank you guys so much for joining. A couple of you panelists had some technical difficulties, which was a problem on my end, and I apologize, but I do see that you guys are all here, and I'm really excited to welcome you. So I'm going to introduce you guys. Because there's so many of you, I'm going to ask you guys each to give your own little bio. We have 3 veterinary students and 2 new veterinarians, a newer grad and somebody who's been out for 2 years, or it is starting in her 2nd year. So first I'll introduce our Ready Vet Go student ambassadors. We have it looks like there's two Charlene's up here on the screen, and that's because one of them is actually Kathy, who is having trouble logging in. So Kathy's here, and yeah, Kathy, give another wave if you can, so we know that it's you. So Kathy is a Ready Vet Go student ambassador. Charlene, the real Charlene, is also one of our student ambassadors. We have a CityVet student ambassador who is Camille, and we have 2 early career veterinarians. We have Dr. Marissa, who's waving right now, who is a first-year veterinarian who's joining us as a current Ready Vet Go mentee. So she can share with you a little bit about that experience. And we have Dr. Ty, who is both a CityVet associate and a former Ready Vet Go mentee. And we're just so thrilled to have all of you. I'm going to ask you guys each, we're going to do kind of like a Q&A, and really this is going to be for the students to kind of interview the new grads and the early career vets to ask questions about maximizing externships, getting through those last few years of vet school, what to look for in a first job. We want to take all of these questions, and we will be taking audience questions as well. But I just want to kind of go around and have you guys, I would say in like 30 seconds, if you could give yourselves a little bit of an introduction. If you're a vet student, what year you are, what school you go to, and one fun fact about yourself. And I'm springing that on you guys. I didn't give anybody a chance to think about that. So I will ask for a volunteer to go first, and then I'll call on you guys to go around and give a little brief introduction, please. All right, I'm volunteering Charlene, the real Charlene. Can you go first?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Charlene. I'm a 3rd-year veterinary student at the University of Florida. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I don't know if it's a fun fact, but I'm very proud of it that I've never broken a bone. And I did sports for over 16 years, so I think that's something I own with pride and joy.
That is a fun fact, and I love it. All right, Camille, would you mind going next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Camille. I am a 2nd-year student at the University of Arizona College of Veterinary Medicine down in Tucson. I absolutely love it here. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, and a fun fact is I used to have a chameleon as a pet. He was really cute, but they make horrible pets, so choose wisely.
That is good advice and a fun fact. Dr. Marissa, would you mind going next, please?
Sure. Hi. I'm Dr. Marissa Romagnolo. I just graduated this past May. I actually am a dual citizen of the US and Canada. And so I ended up going to vet school in basically like the equivalent of a state school in Canada. But now practicing in the US in small animal practice. I'm really interested in things like exotics and surgery and anesthesia, and definitely excited to answer some questions tonight.
Thank you so much. All right, Kathy.
Hi guys, my name is Kathy, and I'm a 3rd-year vet student at Western University of Health Sciences, located in Pomona, California. And I think my fun fact is that I am surrounded by twins. I am a twin, and my partner as well as my best friend are also twins. So
I love that. Thanks, Kathy. All right, Dr. Ty.
Hi, I'm Ty Hallier. I graduated from Texas A&M in May of 2023, so starting my 2nd year out. And my fun fact is that I dove like springboard diving all through college. So
I love that. Thanks for sharing. I feel like I got a lot of diving having just watched the Olympics. All right, so panelists, thank you guys so much. I decided to do this event. This is the 2nd type of event that we've done this way, because I just get being in the founder of Ready Vet Go and having a mentorship program, I get a lot of questions from vet students about what to look for with mentorship, a lot of questions about getting through veterinary school. And I thought this would just be a really great way that we could connect you guys with each other and as a service to other veterinary students. I would love to hear from the audience. We do have quite a few people who are here tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I would love for you, if you are able to utilize the chat and just drop in the chat and really let us know if you're joining us as a student, or if you're not a student, what your role in the veterinary profession is. And I'm going to make this chat available so that everybody can see it. While everybody's dropping into the chat, let us know, where you're joining us from and if you are a vet student and what year. And I think we'll just kick this off with a question from one student to one of our new veterinarian panelists. So I'm not going to coordinate too much. I'll rein you guys in if we need to have a little bit more organization, but I'll just pause now and see if there's somebody who would just like to lead us off with a question on behalf of you or some of your classmates.
I can start.
Great.
One of my questions was, what does mentorship at CityVet and Ready Vet Go look like? Do you usually have one mentor, or are there usually multiple mentors through your training process?
Sure. So I can answer that a little bit. So I just started with the program, a couple of months ago. You basically have access to multiple mentors in the program. And so, some of the meetings are with various different mentors who are vets. And you can basically choose, what breakout room or kind of like which mentor you would like to, ask your questions of the day to. But then kind of another component is that you have a group of other early vets and a specific mentor that you're kind of assigned to. And that one's a little bit more personal, and that one you meet with often. So you do kind of get a variety of options, but then also a go-to mentor.
Thank you.
And then I can kind of answer more specifically with CityVet, since I know that was like kind of the other part of the question. But so when I originally started, I had an assigned person who was Dr. Tate, and she is amazing and she knows her stuff, and she is like one of the she's like crazy busy all the time. I don't know how she does it. So she actually, about 6 months into my first year, took a new position at our CityVet home office. And so kind of during that time, there was a little bit of a flux with who my mentor within the clinic was. It ended up being more of our LP, which is a lead practitioner, basically like the medical director of our clinic, who is also fantastic. But there are 2 or 3 other doctors there depending on the day, and they are always like answering questions that I have and bouncing things off of each other. So it's really a collaborative kind of process at the clinic that I'm at. But then if I need final say on a case, or I can pull the room, but if there's if I need somebody that's definitively this is what you should do, I usually go to our lead person.
Thank you guys for sharing that. I think, those answers show that there's so many different ways to have mentors, and that's why we like to offer for you guys a wide variety of mentorship experiences, because so many of you are going to go into lots of different practices, and just, kind of paying attention to what these early career vets are saying about finding different mentors is really important, that you might not always have the one lead person in the clinic who's available to you at all times. So both of those are really great answers. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to pivot, since there's a question in the chat, and I think this question can be answered. I'm going to ask one of the students and then one of the new vets to answer this. So the question is from a first-year vet student at UMN. Thanks for joining us. What sort of things did you do early as a first year that you feel were the most helpful to prepare you for the workforce? So I know you students aren't out in the workforce yet, but you all have been through your first year. From one of you students, maybe Charlene or Kathy, since we haven't heard from you guys yet, what is one thing you did in your first year that you feel is like helping prepare you for the workforce?
I can go. So I think the unique thing about my school and the program we have, is that you are sort of forced to kind of delve into the text and literature when it comes to learning things like anatomy, physiology, and whatnot. And I think that's a really great opportunity because as I've gone out and done like externships at clinics, that's kind of how a lot of the vets are looking up things when they have a patient that they're not super comfortable with in terms of what they're seeing. They always have a repertoire of books that they always look at. So I really think being comfortable with recognizing which books you like and which books help you learn is really good. So that way, when you go out and practice, you have which ones, okay, which one is my favorite pathology book that I like to look at? So I think that's helped a lot. And I think it's something that gets overlooked sometimes since, now in the day of age of technology, but getting comfortable with what books you like is a big one.
I love that. I think it's so useful and practical. And you're right. I mean, I've been out for 20 years and you guys, I still will bring my favorite anatomy textbook into the surgical room sometimes if it's a surgery that I'm not doing all the time so that I can open it and really have the anatomy available to me to look at. That's okay to do. And that came from a book that I loved during my first year. So I love that answer. From you new practicing veterinarians, some tips about things that you maybe did early in your vet school career that are helping you now?
I can go. So I think just kind of, and not in a like depressing or like weird kind of way, but just like accepting that you're never going to have all the answers and like you're never going to have all the knowledge just there in your head. And that's why having the resources there that you know and are comfortable with is so important, is because like, yeah, you can remember the slide that your one anatomy professor taught 10 years ago, but you can't remember, like, you can remember the picture and where exactly the answer is on the screen, but you can't remember what the words said. That's why it's so important to be able to have those references and just accepting that, it's okay to not have the answers, and that it's also really important to be able to like know that about yourself and be able to follow through and look them up for patients and your clients.
Great. I love that. Let's do another. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna
Yeah.
add, so I think honestly, I spent several years in the veterinary industry before going to vet school. And I think like, the experience with that is definitely very valuable, but something that is really important, and I think that I really benefited from was actually developing relationships with practicing vets already. Like I became very close friends with a lot of vets even before I went to school. And so when I read your question, as far as preparing you for the workplace, things that I am coming to mind are, you know, questions about salary, questions about how you will arrange your schedule. Those types of things are really more comfortable to ask someone that you have developed a relationship with and that you're already in conversation with regularly. And so I was very lucky to early on, really become friends with some vets in the industry and be able to have, a lot of those career preparation conversations with them when we're talking about, actually being someone who is in the workforce in a career, because it's not, necessarily all about your knowledge in medicine, but it also is, a lot of the practicality things that come along with being a full-time employee. So I found that very helpful.
That is really good advice. I'll put in a plug for the RVG community. I dropped the link into the chat. I mean, this is a place where you can go and network with experienced veterinarians. Networking is so important. And I think the fact that all of you guys who are on the panel and for everybody who's here in attendance, I think you probably already do have some idea around the importance of networking so that you have people that you're comfortable asking these questions of. And I think this is something that'll carry you really throughout your career. Let's do another question from a student. Charlene, do you have a question?
Yes. So my first question, it will be about externship. Can you name 3 things you wish you had known before starting your first externship?
I think, I don't know if I can come up with 3 like off the top of my head, but I'll just say my initial thoughts. One of them is that a lot of policies and rules will vary clinic to clinic. And so don't feel dumb if you aren't doing things according to like a clinic's policy or like an externships policy, because that really, isn't necessarily something that's taught in school and can vary clinic to clinic. And I felt like a lot of the things that I wasn't getting on my externships right away were almost just like systematic things that, whenever you're a new employee at somewhere, you just have to learn how things work at the clinic. So that's like one of the first things that's coming to my head.
Yeah, I don't know if I could come up with 3 things, but I also worked like as a technician and as various other things like before I went to vet school. And so at least from like some of my classmates, I felt like they didn't have the same experience like beforehand. And so they didn't really understand like what all a technician does. And so I think going into an externship, like not only trying to show the vets your knowledge, but really just being able to like jump in and like start doing things that need to be done, whether that's things that are classically considered like technician jobs, like drawing blood or placing catheters or doing fecals or whatever that may be. Just being willing to do those things is really important, and will also help you get experience if you haven't had experience in a clinic before.
Yeah, both of those were really great tips. And one thing that I would add too is just, having hosted many externs over the years is to come to your externship with something that you want to learn in mind so that you have a goal to kind of drive you through your day. Otherwise, it's kind of chaos. You're there for a short period of time. You kind of don't know, like, what Dr. Mercer was talking about, like all the different rules from the different clinics. So having a goal or, many goals of things that you want to accomplish during that externship to help kind of be a guiding light as you progress through that program, I would add to the things that our other 2 doctors have said. I feel like somebody was about to come add something else into the space here.
I was gonna say something kind of similar, which was like for me when I went on my externships, one of my big goals was to get a lot of surgery experience. And I know that's a big goal for a lot of vet students, and some clinics are a lot more comfortable with that than others. And so the thing that I would say, kind of piggybacking off of what Danny is saying as well, is, if you do have a goal of something that you really want to get into and you really want to improve, sometimes you really got to push for it. And it almost seems annoying, like you're being annoying. But I had to remind the vets that I was with like several times, like, oh, by the way, like if we have an extra surgery this week, I really would love to be on it. And so sometimes you just really have to stick up for yourself and really kind of just keep going for it, keep reminding them to give you that opportunity. And hopefully they will receive it in a well-mannered way. But you really have to kind of stick up for yourself in that way because they will forget sometimes.
Yeah, those are great. I'm gathering from some of the questions that are dropping in the chat that we actually have some pre-vet students in this audience. So welcome pre-vet. We do have a couple of questions about getting into vet school. So while I didn't let the vet students know that they were going to be on the hot seat, I'm actually going to turn this question to the vet students. So we've got two questions that are really similar. So one is, do you just have any tips for applying to vet school? And the other question is, before starting vet school and building your resume, would you say that you did internships that helped you before going into vet school? Let's start maybe, Camille, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. It definitely depends on the vet schools that you're applying to, but I found that vet schools care obviously about your grades, but they do care a lot about the experience that you got outside of school. So I feel like just building, like grabbing at anything that you can do, little like 2-week internships here and there, volunteering here, doing this, doing that. I feel like those things really help build your application and make you stand out from other people who are maybe just worried about grades, which again is like really important too, but I didn't have the best grades and I feel like I just had really cool experiences on my application and that got me to a really awesome school. So I feel like internships definitely help in that.
What about the other students?
Kind of piggybacking off of Camille, I do believe that internships are a great way to get exposure to different kinds of areas in the veterinary field, especially because since, you know, veterinarians can pretty much work with any kinds of animals, and it's really hard when you're first trying to navigate the field to figure out where you see yourself. So I think doing like short-term internships are a great way to see, oh, do I like doing shelter medicine or do I like doing zoo medicine? So it's not only like a little checkbox that you kind of check off for like applying to vet school, but it also helps you in the long term of things. And in terms of like tips for applying to vet school, more of like a non-technical thing is there is no like magic formula to get you into vet school. So just because let's say you don't get it in the first time, it's not a reflection on you. It's just a very competitive field. And sometimes it could just be a hit or miss during the application session. So realizing that, you know, it doesn't reflect off of you as a person, it's just how kind of things are. So just kind of sticking it through, especially if this is the career you see yourself in.
I know I'm not a vet student, but I can definitely add to that. Speaking from firsthand experience, I did not get into vet school on my first try. I have asked literally every other doctor at my clinic, and not a single one of them got in on their first try, but they are all amazing, amazing practitioners. And like, I trust them with my own animals, which is like saying a lot because we all know the people that we wouldn't trust. But my doctor, like my colleagues are amazing. None of us got in on our first try. I went to an application review at A&M where I applied, and they basically told me like, you need more animal experience. So all of mine was in small animal because I knew that was kind of what I wanted to do. And then I got this really amazing opportunity with actually a very well-known equine practitioner. And I'm like convinced that he's the reason that I got into vet school because he wrote me a recommendation letter. And so I think really, again, like building off of that and having a variation of experiences shows the application committees that you're committed to like vet med in general.
Awesome. Thanks, Ty. Let's take another question from one of our students. Kathy, I don't think you've asked a question yet, have you? Okay, great.
So I just have a general question from some of my classmates as we're kind of moving on to our clinical year and then graduating, but they were wondering what's the hardest part of transitioning from the student mindset to a doctor mindset?
I think it's truly you know, what kind of we were talking about earlier of you will not know the answers. And as a student, you are writing exams, and it's kind of like, I have to know the answer of when a patient presents with this, this, and this, it's this disease. As a doctor, and I think like when you interact with a lot of veterinarians, kind of one-on-one and even on a more familiar level, it's really evident that, you know, a lot of the times there's not a correct answer at all. And so, you know, it almost isn't about knowing the right answer, but it's more about knowing what the appropriate next step would be. And so you don't have to know the answer, but you should know, okay, if I see these signs or I'm seeing this problem presented to me, what are the next steps that are appropriate to take? So, you know, just kind of reframing your mind in that way. You don't have to link symptoms to a disease necessarily, although a lot of the times it is helpful. But just knowing a plan in place for what direction to go.
Such a good answer, and something that will last you your whole career. If you guys as students can, it's really, really good advice.
I 1000% agree with you. But the kind of hardest thing for me transitioning from student to doctor was just the like acceptance of responsibility. So like as a student, you know, there's the interns, there's the residents, there's the attendings, and sometimes like 4 other people between you and like what plan you come up with and what happens to your patient, right? And so as a doctor, right, it's just you and your patient, and you can ask a million other doctors what they would do, and ultimately like the responsibility falls on you. So that's the thing that I had the hardest time like transitioning from, was just the responsibility aspect of it, because it's all on you.
Yeah, that extra responsibility can carry a lot of weight, and surrounding yourself with people that you can lean on, and taking the advice from these panelists, I think that was a really important thing to add to the conversation, Ty. We have some questions coming into the chat about people getting into their clinical year and looking for externships. And so I think this could actually apply to anyone on the panel, because all of you are beyond your first year in school. We've got second and third years and people approaching their clinical years. So for those of you students who are in the process of looking for externships, what questions are you asking of those clinics? That is the question that was dropped into the chat. What questions are you asking of those clinics? And for you early career vets, when you were looking for externships, what kind of questions were you asking? So this is really for any of you guys.
I'll be honest that I really didn't do a good job of interviewing back when it came to a lot of my externships. So I think this is a great idea. Like some of the things that I was specifically looking for in an externship were experiences that I wouldn't have experienced in school. So for me, that was a lot of zoo med type of stuff, or a lot of aquarium type of stuff. Or, you know, when it came to like high surgery volume things like shelter med. So I was specifically looking for areas that were weakened in, you know, the specific educational system. And, you know, definitely other factors are at play. Like, is there travel? Is there board? Is there some sort of compensation for the externship? Because all of that is really important from a practicality standpoint. And even from your happiness standpoint, you know, if the externship is super far and you don't have any friends or family there, then it may be something that you want to think a little bit harder about and say, okay, will I actually be happy there while I'm on this trip? And so I think all of those variables are definitely really important.
Some of the questions that I kind of answered or like asked was like about resources that the clinic had. So like how they do their blood work, how they do their ultrasounds, if they have x-ray, like what all do they have available to them. And I was in kind of a weird position where my husband had moved to a different city, and so I was using my externships almost like working interviews. So I think finding a clinic that you're really interested in, and like doing some research beforehand and then going into them knowing that you like them and have some kind of interest in them is also pretty helpful.
I think for me, it has been also asking them what the externship looks like from their perspective. Like what experiences you're gonna be able to have, what is gonna be your responsibility during the externships, to see if their goals align with yours. Because there's some externships that are heavy on like shadowing, and you're actually not gonna be able to do a lot of the things that you want to gain from it. So just making sure that your goals align with the clinic or the site that you're gonna be externshipping. I think it's setting you up for success before you start or accept an externship.
I think just the fact that everyone was very much nodding their heads when you said sometimes it's just shadowing, I think that suggests that a lot of you guys have experienced that, or at least have heard stories around that. And shadowing can be great. There's a lot of value that comes from shadowing, but there's also a lot of value to just getting in there and getting a little bit more hands-on. And if that's important to you, then knowing that in advance so that your expectations are clear. So I think that was all really good advice. Students, what other questions did you guys bring from your?
I have one that kind of bounces off of the topic. I was wondering, with your externships, what was like the biggest takeaway? Was it usually finding things about a clinic that you did or did not like, where you're like, oh, I could see myself working here? Or was it more so the experiences that you had, like hands-on wise?
I can go. So I think I didn't really get the same externship experience as a lot of people, because like I said, I was trying to aim for almost like institutional level experiences. So I almost wasn't really treating them as a working interview. And so for me, a lot of the things that I was aiming to take away, or that, I was specifically goal orienting myself to take away, was more from an experience standpoint. When it came to the surgeries, or when it came to working with certain, species, to really like gain the specific skill sets that went along with those things. But I know a lot of people more get like a personalized gain from treating it almost as a building working relationship.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I did with mine. And I think a lot of my classmates kind of did what I did, um, where you like find a couple of clinics that you may be interested in working, or um, that you've heard really great things about, that they let you do a lot, even if you're not necessarily interested in working there. So kind of a combination of both, like building the working relationship, but also getting the experience that you want. But for me, I knew that I was going to be in a place that I was not from. And so I needed to have those like working interviews, not only for myself, like showing them what I could do, but also seeing what their clinic was about. So I really found that I was able to get a really good feel for clinics working there for 2 weeks. That's how long my away rotations were. So 2 weeks. It's pretty hard to pretend for 2 weeks that everything is cool if it's not cool in a clinic. So I was able to get like a pretty good feel for how people interacted with each other, how the doctors interacted with the techs, managerial stuff, all of that.
I have a question for you guys because externships really are different than when I graduated 20 years ago. Some of you guys are in schools where you don't have teaching hospitals, so a lot of your hands-on learning is going to be coming from these externships. So I'm just curious, like, what are some like non-traditional externships that you guys have done or are looking at doing? It sounds like a lot of these are like traditional things that we would think of in a clinic, but what are some of the other, like, can you just go do an externship because it's really fun and it's not something you're going to necessarily do in practice, but just you want to add to your professional kind of repertoire and experience. So what are some of the like fun, interesting, exciting, off the beaten path, less traditional externships that you guys either did yourselves or you are planning on doing?
I have one. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. One that I'm planning on doing during my third year is actually an externship in Hawaii, that works with the native communities on managing diseases, and things like that with climate change and the community. So that I'm really looking forward to and is not what I plan to do after graduating.
Can I just ask a follow-up to that? Because that's so amazing. How did you find that, or how does one find something like that?
Yeah, this one's actually offered through our school because we don't have a teaching hospital. Our third year is completely externships. So this one was actually offered by one of our professors, but I'm sure that there are more similar ones offered elsewhere.
I was gonna say that I'm interested in doing exotics or zoo medicine. So the two externships that I have aligned so far are in zoos, which is not like the typical route. And I'm also looking at one in Costa Rica, which it's not in my plans to move and live in Costa Rica or practice there. But for me, I think it's gonna give me more experience with like different variety of species. So yeah.
One that I did that, kind of didn't have any practicality behind it is I ended up at this clinic and it was kind of unintentional, but the vet there, who was the main vet, she actually was a forensic specialist. And I'm not a path girl at all. But it was super cool because she basically did legal necropsies for a lot of cases. And I actually got to go to court with her as she did like a court case presentation and basically testified as a veterinarian. And so something like that is really cool because it's not really something that we're exposed to very often. And I feel like it did really help me as far as like knowing my responsibility as a vet, as far as what type of abuse I should report, where is suspicion of abuse, or how serious legally do we have to be about certain things. And so that's not really a career path I was ever intending to go in. But that's just one of those things where it's good to have the experience of it, and it's just like you can say that you did it. Because I'm also interested in zoo med, like definitely the zoo externships, the aquarium externships are just those things where it's like a once in a lifetime experience. And even if you don't go into zoo med, like I'm more interested in exotics rather than zoo med now. And so I may probably not be working on a gorilla again, but it's just the fact that I got to work on a gorilla. That's super cool. And so just even, selfishly signing up for experiences that, add to your life in that way.
I don't know about you guys, but these are making me so excited. I think I made it clear at the beginning, like I love our profession. I think veterinary medicine is the best job ever, but it's not just one job. I mean, just hearing all of these things makes me so excited. There's a lot of pre-vet students in here. There's a lot of vet students who are in the audience, and then you guys, all of these experiences are so incredible, and it's such a rich profession, and we can go into so many different directions. And so I want to do just another webinar and just hear about all of these amazing externship experiences that you guys get to do. And as many different externship opportunities that there are also that many when it comes to choosing a career. And when you do pick your career choice, you're not locked into it. I graduated 20 years ago and I was in the clinic for 18 years and I loved it. I loved almost every minute of it. And then as I approached 20 years, I found that I loved mentoring as much or more at that point in my life than I did being in the clinic. And so I've had a full career change and I get to do these types of things. And so there's lots of different ways that you can go in this profession, and it makes me really excited to hear from you guys. So there is a couple of questions in the chat. I'll read two that I see right now and I'll let you guys just pick one. So the first one says, for the practicing vets, what are key takeaways from your externships that helped you in your current practice? And then I'm going to read the second one. You can circle back to this in a minute, but I'll let you guys choose, which one you want to take. The second one, it says that I've heard that if you're looking for internships in clinics that really prefer to select students to have done an externship with them. Oh, that makes sense to me. Okay, so this person's saying that the postgraduate internships might select people who have done externships with them. Do you think that this is true? How much of an impact does it make? And what do we need to know? Do we need to do working interviews at places and do externships where we might want to do an internship? So that was a big question. And then just the question that I posed before that was, if you don't know about that with internships, what are some key takeaways from your externships that helped you in your current practice? And I think that would be for both of our two doctors on the panel.
So I obviously I used my externships as working interviews, and I work at a practice that I did an externship at. So I think one of the main takeaways that I got from my externship was just kind of skipping the first 2 weeks basically of growing pains and where does the clavamox live, or where do steroids or injectables or whatever that may be, kind of the minutia of how the clinic runs was super helpful. So I was able to focus more on the medicine, which is a huge undertaking on its own. So I think that really put me ahead as far as new grads go. But I am a general practitioner, so I'm not sure how the internship residency process works as far as selecting candidates. I know a lot of academic institutions, at least at A&M, it was like this, where they didn't particularly want to take their own students because there was some kind of weird stigma around it. So they sent them off other places. I have a couple of friends that went other places for residencies and internships. So I genuinely, I cannot speak to the truth of that one way or the other, but I would maybe recommend shadowing there a summer or working there as a technician to maybe establish relationships beforehand. That way you can use your externships as those unique experiences that you want, and not having to go back to do the externships.
Those are great, Ty. Thank you.
Sorry, I was just gonna chime in and say, I clearly am not doing an internship at the moment either. But at least from what I've heard from my friends is that, I'm sure some of the internships are more exclusive in that way. But I wouldn't say that that's all internships. I don't think that it's required, for all internships for you to have done an externship with them before. I do think it's more like a broad networking type of thing. And a lot of people who have never worked at a certain clinic end up getting an internship there. So I wouldn't think about it too hard, but if there is a very specific one that you want, maybe, making some friends over there, talking to them a little bit. But I think, for internships in general, the main thing is just that you have to be open-minded to whatever ends up coming your way, and making a decision based on that. And I think I don't have any specific key takeaways that I haven't really talked about already, but if you guys have specific questions about anything, let me know.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, like I said, I graduated 20 years ago. I did do an internship. I was 100% knew that I was going to be a general practitioner. And for me, it was really important to do an internship at a place that was really supportive of that. I didn't want to go to a place that was really going to try and funnel me into a residency, because I knew that's not what I wanted. There's, tons of opportunity for support for general practice. Our two veterinarians here didn't do an internship, went right into practices and are getting really good support. So the scaffolding for mentorship and support is really much more broad in many clinics than it was 20 years ago. But if you are going to an internship because you are residency bound and you're going to go through the match, then I think, like, what Marissa was just saying, that, you might just need to be open to whatever comes your way, because that's going to get you to where you want to go. If, on the other hand, you have a very specific goal that internship can provide for you, then perhaps doing an externship, or doing kind of a working interview, or spending time there to make sure that it meets your needs might work out for you. But there's lots of different ways that it can go. We've got less than 10 minutes. There's like lots of questions in the chat and so many good conversations happening, but I want to make sure that we get the questions answered from our student panelists. I can't keep track of who's asked questions so far. So any student panelists have another question for our vets?
I have a question kind of going off of the topics that we've been talking about in terms of externships, but I guess the question is, like, how did you guys stand out during your externship to be offered a job when you narrowed down that you wanted to work at the institution?
So, like I was kind of saying before, I think just being willing to jump in and do whatever needs to be done, not just kind of like standing in the corner and twiddling your thumbs and like watching, because that can only get you so far. Like, I do think it's important to observe sometimes. Don't get me wrong, because I'm very much an introvert and very much a wallflower. But I think just like jumping in with whatever needs to be done is super helpful, especially when it's a really busy clinic. And as veterinary medicine goes, it's inevitably going to be short staffed, and there's going to be things that need to be done that they just don't have the hands for. So just jumping in and being willing to help, even if it's not necessarily like considered a veterinarian's job to do so.
I think this wasn't actually one of my externships, but one of my summer jobs, I guess, that I had in between second and third year or something like that. The specific feedback I received, which was awesome, was that the doctors I was working under noticed that I would go through the schedule, a couple days in advance and read through the files, and then I would look stuff up online about it. And then, I would reference that to them, if we were in some sort of surgery, and I would say, oh, will you be closing it like this or like this? I was reading up on this procedure and I saw that there were two different methods. So just kind of, I would definitely kind of prepare for the week as much as I could and do some extra reading. And the key with the extra reading is that, you don't want to just like bring up that you've done extra reading. It's more that you are trying to guide yourself and ask natural questions that come along. And so, when you're asking the vet like how they would manage a case, just, being able to reference certain materials, or, say, when I was reading through their file, I noticed they were on this medicine, just really having that preparation behind, the day, I think is really key.
Yeah, those are excellent tips. We just have a couple more minutes. Is there one more question from one of our students? I have another question in the chat if you guys don't have other questions. Should I read my chat question? It was earlier when we first started, so I don't have it right in front of me. But it was about NAVLE prep. So give your NAVLE prep tips.
I signed up for Zuku. there's also another one, and now I can't even remember what it's called, but they're both great. There's like two mainstream ones, Zuku Review and I can't remember the other one. Vet Prep, that's right. But they are awesome, and they have essentially like study plans. So my first tip is don't start studying too far in advance because you're just going to forget it all. And my second tip is do the study plans that they have and just work the questions over and over again, because the NAVLE is not real life and it will never be real life. And you can, say a dog has Cushing's and it has potbelly and whatever other signs, but in real life, it doesn't always present like that. So know what they're asking, but know that it's also not real life.
Vet Prep and Zuku actually send out questions of the day. So I know that a lot of my classmates are signed up for the questions of the day. So you're not like cramming yourself with studying for the NAVLE, but every day you get a question. It takes you like 30 seconds to read. So I'll just like do it right before class starts. And they do recycle questions. So it's nice to like see what you remember and what you don't, or like what you now makes sense that didn't 6 months ago.
I just had a funny thought. This is my fun fact that I didn't share with you guys. The founders, the creators of Vet Prep were in my class, the graduating class of UC Davis 2004. There were 3 guys that I graduated with, and they put together a bunch of test study questions that we all used, and they called it Stump the Dumbass. And then they built it out, and it's Vet Prep, and now it's been used for 20 years. So that's my fun fact. And I think that'll be good to end on. This was really, really fun. I'm so grateful to everybody who came into the audience and to our panelists. You guys are amazing. I think we might want to do this again. Thank you so much for your time. I know that your time is precious. We've got vet students and early career vets, and everybody's lives are so busy. And I'm so grateful to you guys for taking an hour out of your evenings to share with each other and to share with our audience. For those of you who are in the audience, I just dropped the link to the community, and this will be available on demand because I know that students are always looking to get more information. So thank you guys so much. I hope to see you guys at future events. I'm so grateful to all of you, and I hope that everybody has a really amazing evening. Thanks, everyone.